Only a few weeks ago, after my Apple Watch Series 4 review, I said that Apple wasn't able to tempt me in updating my Series 4 to a newer Apple Watch. After uploading this video, it's like the YouTube algorithm knew and it just started recommending me tons of Apple Watch Series 7 video reviews, and I'll be honest, it did tempt me into upgrading, and I do like the Apple Watch Series 7. I didn't spend too much money on this Apple Watch as I bought a cheap one on eBay. So in this video, I'll give you a full overview of how the Series 7 holds up in 2023 and whether or not it's worth your money. However, I think the most important message in this video is if you already own a Series 4, 5 or 6, you're really not missing out on much with the newer Apple Watches. Owning the Apple Watch Series 7 has really highlighted to me how small and iterative the improvements of the Apple Watches have been over the past 3 or 4 years. So let's start off with price, and I didn't buy this new from Apple because they are quite expensive if you want to buy a new Apple Watch. I got caught up in a bidding war on eBay, so I did overpay a little bit. I spent £200 on this Apple Watch, and I did see other exactly the same specs Apple Watches go for under that on eBay. It was just, I got caught up on a bit of a bidding war with someone, and I overpaid by probably about 10 or 20 quid, which was a bit of a pain. I would definitely recommend picking up a used Apple Watch because as long as the battery health is reasonably high, you will be getting yourself a bargain. If you pick one of these up brand new, they do lose a ton of value over the first sort of year of owning them. As soon as the latest and greatest Apple Watch is out, the last year's generation becomes a lot cheaper. So for me, that's a big reason why I picked up the Series 7 over the Series 8, and there just wasn't enough features to sort of tempt me towards the Series 8. Probably the biggest difference between this watch and the older Apple Watches is that larger screen size, and I do really enjoy it. It feels like a good improvement over the Series 4. It allows you to have a keyboard when texting people, which is okay to use. I do actually quite enjoy having the keyboards, and the fonts are generally a bit bigger so it's easier to read, and you get a lot more information on the watch faces, which is something that I like. And I'll be honest, I actually really enjoy the always on display. So this isn't a new feature to the Series 7, but it is an upgrade over my Series 4. And in my Series 4 review, I did say that the always on display wasn't a big deal, but for me, I just like being able to glance at my wrists whilst I'm sat at my desk, or just use it much more like you would a normal watch. So the always on display is probably the biggest improvement for me. I've got this particular Apple Watch in a dark blue colour, which I absolutely love. All of a sudden, I'm really not a fan of my silver Series 4, just because I think it draws too much attention to itself on my wrist, and I really do enjoy this dark blue watch with the dark blue strap as well. I think my biggest issue when it comes to the design of the Series 7 is the watch faces. I really struggle to find a watch face that I enjoy and I want to be always on. So out of the entire selection that Apple give you, there's only really 2 or 3 watch faces that I really like, and there's only one watch face that I actually use, and that's because I kind of want that standard watch aesthetic. So I want like an analog watch style, but I also want to be able to see the complications. So I have date, battery life, heart rate, and my exercise rings as well, and I really enjoy just sort of glancing down and checking on those throughout the day. So in terms of performance, the Series 7 is pretty fast, yeah, but I don't really notice much difference between the Series 4 and the Series 7 Apple Watch. So the Series 7 is about 20% faster than the Series 4, which for sure sounds good on paper, but I don't really notice it very often in my daily use. In terms of performance with the Series 7 Apple Watch, it's definitely solid, but so was my Series 4. So moving on to the health features, and I'm a really big fan of the health features and genuinely think that this alone is a good enough reason to pick up an Apple Watch. So I track my runs and gym sessions with this, and you get tons of useful data. So it's good to track your heart rate and your resting heart rate, so you can see if there's any anomalies in the future, and you've just got tons of data to reference. So I have got sort of 4 or 5 years of heart rate data just all on my phone, which I think is really cool. So recently, one of my friends got diagnosed with a heart problem, and Luckily, they picked it up early enough and it's going to be manageable with medication. But he didn't have an Apple Watch, so he only picked this up because his work offered him a free random health check, which they detected it, but he was completely asymptomatic and didn't know that he had this condition. Since being diagnosed with this condition, he did pick up an Apple Watch, and with the ECG feature, it always detects this heart condition that he's got and says if this is not something you're expecting, go to see the doctor. So I think for so many people out there, this could be a really good way of detecting any underlying health issues that you may have in the future, and also just managing your fitness. Blood oxygen is also cool to have. I don't really check this very often, but I have it turned on so it just does regular checks throughout the day and whilst I'm asleep. The only thing to note with the blood oxygen sensor that it isn't sort of the medical grade that the heart rate sensor is, so I'm not too sure how reliable it is. Finally, the last health feature that I want to talk about is fall detection. Whilst this feature isn't new to the Series 7, I think it's still a really valuable feature that will almost certainly save lives. So if you are worried about your elderly relatives, maybe it would be a good idea to get them a Series 4 or newer Apple Watch as a gift. Finally, I want to talk about the battery life on the Series 7 Apple Watch, and this was probably my biggest disappointment because for some reason when I bought this I had the misconception in my mind that it would last multiple days without charging, but similar to the Series 4 it will last about 18 to 24 hours at best. So if you're someone like me who pretty much wears it all the time even whilst they're asleep, you are going to have to find time in the day to charge it. One cool feature is that it now supports fast charging, and it is really fast. In about half an hour you can top this up to 100%. However, I'm not going to be using fast charging. So the battery health on this Apple Watch is 87%. And I think if I'd known that, I wouldn't have bought it. I've owned my Series 4 Apple Watch for years. I've worn it tons and the battery health is at 88%. So this Series 7 that's only 12 months old, the battery has deteriorated more than my Series 4, which is many years old. And that's probably down to fast charging. In the 2 weeks that I've owned this watch, the battery health has deteriorated by 2%, which obviously isn't a massive amount, but that's quite a lot for 2 weeks. So I am no longer going to be fast charging this Apple Watch, just in hopes that I can protect that battery for a longer period of time. So will I be keeping it, or should you upgrade, or should you go ahead and buy it? So yes, I will be keeping it, only because I think I'd lose a lot of money if I were to go and sell it again, just because eBay take their fees, the battery health is lower than I expected. So I am going to be keeping it just because I don't want to lose money on it. What I'm going to do is sell my Series 4, and I reckon I could probably get between like 60 and 80 quid because it's in such good condition with decent battery health. I think I should be able to get a decent chunk of money for my Series 4, which will essentially mean the Series 7 was sort of half price. So should you upgrade? If you own a Series 5 or newer, almost certainly not. If you own a Series 4, maybe, just because that always on display and the slightly bigger screen is quite a nice quality of life feature, and I do personally enjoy it. And should you go ahead and buy one? If you've not got an Apple Watch, I'd almost certainly recommend going ahead and buying the Series 7. I think it offers really good value for money. It will last for many years, and I think it's going to be a great fitness companion, and just due to it being an Apple Watch and then being so popular, it's something that you can wear with pretty much any outfit, whether it be sort of a suit at a really fancy event or just something casual like going to the gym. So if you've not got an Apple Watch, I think the Series 7 is a fantastic buy, and you'll be saving a ton of money buying it used over buying a new Series 8. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please do subscribe if you're interested in future technology videos or personal finance videos. Thanks.